Hello! I am Wallas, the Polish toy guy. Thank you for joining me in today's video, in which I'm going to show you Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Autobot Chromia toy. Chromia, just like her sisters RC and Flare-Up, actually did appear in the movie, though honestly her role was not all that important. Basically, she was there to look nice, transform, chase things, fight something, get hit by something. She was just there, but she didn't really make any impact that would make you remember her all that much. But that's a problem with many characters that appear in Bayformers movie, though at least she did get to say something, which is not something that can be said for every character that appears in the movies, as Jolt can confirm. When we first open up Chromia's blister box, aside from the instruction manual, we will receive Chromia herself and this battle platform, and we will talk about Chromia first. And Chromia is a nice looking motorbike. If I'm not mistaken, this is an existing Suzuki Biking model, perhaps slightly modified for the movie purpose, but still an existing model nonetheless. And it looks nice. This black and blue color scheme, decorated with further grey and silver bits, is really fun to look at, especially that we have multiple molded details that add to the toy's realism. This looks just great from a mechanical standpoint. And if it's accentuated with paint, it's even better. But with proper light, we don't actually need it to fully enjoy what we see on this motorbike. And one detail that I really like are the tire vents. It's a small bit, but its inclusion somehow makes me smile. And as you can see, the front lights are clear plastic bits that channels light quite nicely. And we have several Cybertron symbols as well as an Autobot logo on the seat, which is actually an odd place considering that it will be covered by the driver's butt. But yes, I really like looking at this toy. And she's also faring pretty well in terms of structural integrity. Nothing flies loose when we shake her, though there are some elements that don't really peg anywhere. For example, this bit with the lights and steering wheel, it's on a ball joint for the transformation, and this just hinges without any final position. So while this toy is not wobbly at all, if you handle it, chances are that you will have to adjust the position of some parts to optimize its look. Also, I just never know how to handle these tabs. Should they go in front of this part, or under it, or behind it? It doesn't really change anything in terms of fitting, but it just makes me wonder what is the proper position for this. And as you can see, we have a deployable kickstand for Chromia, which helps her rest rather well, and we can tuck it away and use her freely spinning wheels to roll around on our surface. But we'll come back to the kickstand one more time to show you a remnant of an unused mechanism. If we pull on the kickstand, we can deploy this connector arm with additional lock, and that was supposed to be part of a combination gimmick between Chromia, RC and Flare-Up, and they were supposed to combine into a bigger robot, but this was dropped off. In the movie you can't see it in the toys, especially that Flare-Up was never released as a toy, so it's here, it's a curiosity, but you can't really do anything with that. And now we can take a look at the aforementioned battle platform, which is basically a combination of a harness, a Gatling gun, a grenade launcher or a bazooka, and 4 tank threads. And this is mostly made for the use of robot mode. This allows Chromia to stand in robot mode, but we can also use this in her bike mode. Using the harness, we wrap it around these posts, and I find it works the best when the kickstand is partly deployed. So we wrap it around, and now we have an odd-looking stand for Chromia. I suppose this grants her bigger firepower at the cost of slower speed. Again, it's a curiosity, but it's made mostly for the use of robot mode. And of course, Chromia can be driven by other figures, provided they have enough posability and are of similar scale. And now it's time for vehicle mode comparisons, so let's start with some other transforming bikes from my collection. Starting clockwise, here we have Cybertron Scout Class Ransack, Animated Deluxe Class Prowl, Animated Deluxe Class Oil Slick, Universe Micromaster Groove, and Hunt for the Decepticons Scout Class Brimstone. And for some other bike transformers, here we have Deluxe Class RC from Revenge of the Fallen and Deluxe Class Sideways from Armada. And for something with more wheels, here we have Masterpiece Smokescreen, Deluxe Animated Blur and Modari S1 car. And now it's time to transform Chromia into her robot mode. So we hide the kickstand, pull down the rear wheel, flip out these blue parts, pull up the seat, and now we can separate this left bit from the main body. It pegs in on these two spots, and we straighten out the arm and we flip back this panel. It's on a spring hinge, so we have to pull it up a bit and rotate it, and it will lock into this place. And now this whole bit is the left arm, so it's locking into the main skeleton of the toy on two pegs that are underneath here, so we wiggle them out and we pull it away. As you can see, these two pegs over here. And now these bits that are visible underneath are the torso pieces, so using these ball joints and these hinges, we pull them away from the main body and hinge them forward like this to the robot mode position. And we can straighten the front wheel, and before we connect these two halves again, we flip out the robot head from underneath like so. Now we can connect the torso again. Now we can swing around the front light, and we can do whatever we want to do with these handlebars. Now we tuck the seat underneath over here, and we flip up the rear wheel. We flip down the license plate bit, and we swing this plate down like we did on the other arm. And what I also like to do is to swing out the gun arm like so. And now the final bit is to attach this battle platform over here, again at the same spot that we used for the bike mode. And now Chromia can stand, and now Chromia is in her robot mode. I have to admit, what we get after the transformation is quite interesting in terms of design. Unusual, but that's what makes it interesting to look at. With Transformers, we are usually expecting them to have two arms, two legs, but here we don't have any legs, we hardly have anything below the waist that resembles a humanoid, just this bike/wheel section. It definitely makes Chromia stand out on the shelf, but having no legs also means that she will be a bit more static than your average Transformer toy, because it's hard to pose any toy if it doesn't have any legs to pose. So it's mostly going to be a display piece, or if you keep it in your hands, then perhaps you can play with it. But yes, posing this will definitely be a bit more tricky, though I suppose, yes, this odd look was the main idea behind Chromia and her sisters, just to differentiate her from the majority of robots. And she's not the only toy in the movie that has such odd design. And when we compare some of these designs to her, you can really appreciate the fact that she's standing on her own, unlike toys such as Voyager Demolisher, who has to rely on his arm supports, and without them he will fall all the time. Of course, yes, we have this battle platform that makes standing possible, but still, it's way better than this. And I admit that the bottom half of Chromia does look a bit like a motorbike frame that got its engine ripped off, and then someone decided to push all the available parts in to slightly try to hide this missing bit. But her upper body looks quite nice. The head is quite nice. Yes, it's very typical for Bayformers with this multi-plate face, but it has paint, it has nice shapes, so it's a nice head sculpt, though for some reason she has blue eyes, while on the back of her head she has clear plastic light piping, which of course does not work with this eye paint. And I like the design of her hands. 3 fingers, it's a bit thin, but kind of cool looking, and I also think that in this mode these side panels do look like shields which could cover her from enemy fire if she's chasing someone. And of course we have this huge gun which will flop depending on the tightness of your ball joint. It looks really great, triple-barreled gun of destruction, and the middle barrel is a clear projectile that we can fire using this trigger. So if we fire it, it flies pretty far, and even if it's not there, these 2 exhaust pipe barrels still look cool on their own. And this arm also houses the Mecha Life gimmick, something that was rather common in toys from Revenge of the Fallen above Scout class. The idea was that if you move one part, other parts will move automatically. And in case of Chromia, it's moving her elbow, I think. So if we stretch out her elbow, we will reveal this blue part, and these hinges will also move. So it's not all that important to the toy's performance, functionality, but I suppose as an extra gimmick that makes this toy more interesting, it kind of works, even if I could live without it. Also, if we are not careful and we are not holding Chromia by her lower half, it may be easy to separate her torso while handling, especially if we grab her by the arms and we just apply a small bit of force. Yes, this connection is not the strongest, and while fixing this is very easy, still, it may be just a bit annoying to some people. Now let's go back to the battle platform for a bit, because while this is its default configuration, we can do more things with it. If we, for example, remove it and attach it backwards, we can give Chromia an appearance of actually using her wheel to move around, and we can also hinge this up to further increase this impression, though when we do so we have to fiddle with the wheel to keep her balance, because if it's in such a position, her gun really makes her want to topple over to this side. And the battle platform has one more gimmick that's actually quite easy to miss. If we use these two tabs on the inside, we can attach it to Chromia's left forearm, and as a result, give her more firepower. And to some it may look silly and it doesn't stay on quite well. This is rather loose, and it does sacrifice her ability to stand on her own, but still, I appreciate the addition. Now let's take a look at Chromia's posability, which of course pretty much does not exist below her waist. That hardly counts, and the platform does have a locking spot. As you can see, it has a defined position, but above her waist we can use these hinges to angle her so that she can look up. We can angle her slightly so she kind of has an ab crunch of sorts, and her head is on a double joint. The first one is a simple hinge for the transformation, and the other one in her neck is a ball joint, so she can freely move her head around and look up and down. And we can also do what we want with this front wheel. Of course you can keep it like that, but I do like it more when it's in its upper position. And the shoulders are on ball joints, so she can move her arms around as much as these shoulder bits allow her to. And she has bicep swivel and an elbow, and also a sort of side elbow for the transformation. Well, this is mostly for the left arm, but I think this was mirrored for symmetry, and nothing in the forearm. And we have exact same set of joints in her left arm. And this moves if you really want to. Like I said, posability is not the strongest point of this toy, but without having proper legs, that was to be expected. And now it's time for robot mode comparisons, so let's start off with Deluxe Revenge of the Fallen Jolt and Deluxe Dark of the Moon Bumblebee. And now let's change the scheme from cars to motorbikes, so here we have Reveal the Shield Deluxe Wreck Car, Movie Deluxe RC, Revenge of the Fallen Scout Reverb, and Cybertron Basic Lugnuts. And as usual, we finished the comparisons off with the common cola can, €1 coin, and $1 banknote. To sum it all up, Chromia is an interesting and definitely unconventional toy when compared to the other figures in her line. But while her design makes her stand out from the crowd, not everyone may find it a good thing. If you are collectors and your figures spend most of their lives on the shelf, then yes, it's worth to have Chromia as a curious addition to an army of mostly humanoid robots. But if you are kids who like to take your toys on a journey to the world of fantasy action and adventure, you may find Chromia a bit lacking in possibilities, especially due to the posability limited by her design. I belong to the first group, so I'm glad to have her, especially when she's in her nicely looking motorbike mode. So, what will it be? Will there be a spot for Chromia among your toys? Let me know in the comments. And that's all for this video review. I will be back with the next one soon, and until then, stay well. Thank you for watching.